The odds favor Ali in this fight 6-5, if you can imagine. If ever there was a chance to make a score, you had to run to Las Vegas, which I did with my friend, and every time we could put together and put it all on Larry Holmes. Is that like taking the Saudi blood money, though, Lubie? You had to watch one of your idols all time just take an unbelievably ugly beating, and you're yelling in the corner because you have money on it. Come on, Larry! Knock him out! Money is at the root of all evil.
That's pretty
especially
evil.
when it comes to imagine that. You're rooting for Ali to get, I mean, well, you were just screaming, step in and stop it, ref, it's a killing.
All right, you weren't saying that. You were saying knock his old ass out.
Nah, we didn't need that. That was the biggest gimme I've ever seen in my lifetime, right? And it's always good to be right in those situations.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Great to be with you on another Degenerate Friday. Another week has just blown by. Is that cliche to say that? Wow, this week has just flown by, Lubie. But here we are. It's Friday again already, and that means a lot of good things for us. Degenerate Friday, lots of stuff to gamble on. I can't believe, Lubie, and I have the reflection there in that Klitschko poster of some live sporting action that's taking place right now. And I want to say this has been taking place on Tennis Channel. It has been spectacular. You have a 6-hour time difference, I want to say and speculate. I believe that would be the number. 6-hour time difference where in Monte Carlo, on this Friday, they're 6 hours ahead of us. So right now it's, like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right? Something along those lines. And they're about to get their second match of the day started in the quarterfinals. This is a men's Masters 1000 tournament, and what an illustrious field. The Joker got knocked out yesterday. The Joker, who never loses. I think he had some ridiculous record, like 40-2 on the season. And he got knocked off by... this guy, Lorenzo Musetti, who is an Italian kid and is not even the top Italian guy out there. In fact, a battle, this will be, I mean, they may as well just hand everybody a bottle of olive oil when they walk in the door here, because you have two top young Italian players, Musetti, who hasn't quite had the same level of accomplishment as this guy, Yannick Sinner, who sounds like he's Dutch, but turns out he's Italian, and both really good players. Sinner is, I think, he must be in the top 5 by now, because I mean he's been spectacular. Hasn't quite broken through to the point where you see him winning a slam, but always prominent, always making his way through the field, and in a lot of really tough matches with Carlos Alcaraz, the number 1 player in the world. But the action has been spectacular. The amount of encouragement they are giving you to bet on these matches is incredible, Lubie. Stopping just short of holding up the match in between points to ask you if you want to bet whether or not the guy is going to knock the first serve in, and what the over-under is on its speed measurement, as they have the jugs gun measuring every serve in terms of mph, miles per hour. But I mean, the level that they have stooped to in terms of trying to encourage you to bet on the sport is really amazing and ever present, including the DraftKings studio desk, from which they bring you the latest news and information about the tournament. Well, when they had Martina picking who was going to win the first game in a doubles match, and they had that up there as a prop bet, and you could go ahead and lay 120 to win 100 on that either way. So who's winning there, right? When you have to put vig, you have to play with some juice involved, no matter which way you want to go. They're just raking you over the coals, these people. It's amazing. But if they ever want to get behind this show, we will be very much like the people. You can call us Phil Mickelson and Brooks Koepka, right? Those will be our new monikers, because we'll have sold out just as quickly as anybody else. I don't know that these people are overwhelmingly evil. What do you think? These people that are constantly encouraging you to, I mean, degenerate to levels that we never even could have conceived of back in the days in Brooklyn when we would gamble on everything.
It's your choice.
Yeah.
Like, they're not making people do it.
No.
There's an opportunity out there to make money. Go for it. It's on the adults to bet or not bet. I never fault a bookie for taking your money. It's your fault for giving the bookie the money in the first place. It's not the bookie's fault.
All right, let's go ahead and do some handicapping then, because this is going to be going on all day here. And Monte Carlo, there's a this has to be an expensive proposition. Right behind the anchor desk that they have, which the stadium is like overlooking one of the most beautiful bodies of water I've ever seen. Right, and the yachts are parked out there. It's absolutely sensational. They happen to have a very nice day working today. Clear blue skies. Had some rain there yesterday, interrupted the tournament a little bit, but and the action has been phenomenal, right? Because they're on the red clay and you have long, extensive rallies when you have anybody playing on red clay. It's the slowest surface, and it's a big equalizer. I've never seen Novak Djokovic get broken so many times. I mean, if you would bet the over/under on number of times he would lose his serve, you were cruising to the window in the middle of the first set. I mean, he was getting broken like there was no tomorrow by this Musetti kid who came back after being down in the match and came on and won it. But he's going against Sinner today. We have what about Medvedev is taking on, and I just saw a shot of our guy Patrick Mouratoglou, who coaches this young kid. Remember, he was telling us about this kid, and he's come into focus much more so. Guy named Holger, I believe you pronounce his last name Rune, but it's Rune. Young kid, 19 years old, brash man. He's right there with these other guys. Not quite at the level of Alcaraz yet, but very formidable. And Medvedev never loses, although red clay is not his surface. So give me your pick in that one. You get the young upstart Holger Rune against Danil Medvedev, former number one player in the world, trying to work his way back there. Which way are you going on that one, Libby?
I guess Medvedev. I haven't watched a minute of tennis in like a decade.
Doesn't matter. You're being encouraged to bet here by me.
Oh, okay. Medvedev, I guess.
Okay, you got Medvedev. What about the Sinner Musetti match?
You seem to talk about Sinner a lot. So
Yeah, I'm going to go with Sinner in that one, although his last match was a little bit ugly, but he managed to grind out a win. And then you have Taylor Fritz, the American top player, who's, he reminds me, he looks like John Mayer, man, and he's known more for having the hottest girlfriend on the tennis tour. He's got some, social media queen who is, I mean, she's a little dolled up, but, you would have to say by normal American standards, she's stone gorgeous.
nice.
What do you think, Libby? Have you seen this woman?
I mean, I can look for her now.
Yeah. You're wondering how this guy just doesn't crumble at her feet every time that he's anywhere near her. But he's got a lot of confidence in his own game, Taylor Fritz, and he goes against Stefanos Tsitsipas, the Greek,
Okay.
who I think is the two-time defending champion in this tournament. So obviously loves the court there and loves the atmosphere and has played extremely well there. Those are the three matchups left today. So who do you have? You have Medvedev, you have Sinner, and who are you going to take, Fritz or Tsitsipas?
I'll say Tsitsipas. Even
All
though
right.
I'd love to see an American do something in a freaking tournament. Tsitsipas has been pretty consistent throughout the years, so I would say Tsitsipas.
All right, your $100 parlay could net you back like in excess of
That's tough.
$600.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Let's go to Martino. Who do you like to make the first point in the match, Martino? Well, I really think Tsitsipas is going to get it. He's serving, and that's always a big advantage.
Yeah, I don't that. That's a bet I have no interest in. Like that's a bet that's psychotic to me. First point. Oh God.
First point. Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
You can bet on every point. It's in the middle of the point. You can bet who's going to win the point. I don't know how they do it, but it's pretty amazing. All right, so a big day of tennis and a lot of action there, and they are encouraging you to get involved. I'm thinking you have to have a fortune to eat at that restaurant that's behind the set. I don't know if you get a chance, pop on the tennis channel wherever you're at there, Lubie. And but just an absolutely gorgeous event. You would want to put it on your sports bucket list. I think Jim Sarney put it to me yesterday. Said you should put that on your sports bucket list to go there if I could. And there's a shot at a restaurant, and I don't see any people that look like they were shopping on Schmatterow, sitting there in Monte Carlo, eating at the clubhouse dining facility, where they have waiters in tuxedos. That's not necessarily a good sign at a sporting event, is it? When the waiters are wearing tuxedos, you would just prefer somebody standing behind a concession stand with a filthy apron on.
That's
Because you're already getting creamed. Now you got to pay for the suits. All right, a lot of stuff. Tonight's the night, Lubie.
Mm-hmm.
I feel the Heat Nation is shuddering. They're on their collective knees, begging for the gods of gambling to come around to their way of thinking, which is that they would be willing to lay the 5.5 and assume that the Heat will blow out the Chicago Bulls right into Biscayne Bay, put them on wave runners and send them to the Bahamas. In this game tonight, the Bulls being asked to kind of accomplish a little bit of a daunting task, win 2 games back-to-back on the road to make it into the postseason. They did prevail in the end game in Toronto after being down by 19. They have beaten the Heat like a drum, like it was John Good Vibes Bonham, with Led Zeppelin. Did you ever watch that drum solo from Madison Square Garden? I was talking about it to somebody last night, a woman that was with us at dinner, one of Mustang's friends who likes to play the drums. Okay, she had a boyfriend that was a drummer. She started playing the drums. Boyfriend's gone, but the drums stayed, which is good. I mean, I don't know if, I think he bought her the kit that she has that she practices on.
Nice.
And I was telling her about this. You have to check this out on YouTube if you want to see the most phenomenal rock drum solo ever. You can have your Keith Moons. Sure, yeah, Ginger Baker, phenomenal. When I played, what was that song? Toad, right? With Cream. Ginger Baker drum solo, Royal Albert Hall. That's a good one to look up too. But doesn't compare. I mean, it's simplistic by comparison to the great John Good Vibes Bonham, Moby Dick, ladies and gentlemen. 17 minutes of unadulterated, just absolute phenomenal physicality and musical taste. Unbelievable. How this guy did this is beyond comprehension. Good stuff. But, you'll have to be beating the drums very loudly tonight, Lubie, if you're going to get any kind of reaction out of these Heat fans. Are they sedated into the belief that this will be easy? And will it be, in your opinion?
I mean, sedated is the word, but it's the other way. I don't know any Heat fan that doesn't assume they're going to lose. I mean, after that performance against the Hawks, and the other thing is the Damian Lillard murmurs are getting louder and louder. And this pick becomes a lot more valuable if it's a lottery pick. So to me, I don't care if they win this game.
You hope they tank this game tonight. You think Eric Spoelstra?
No, I don't think they're
deliver that message to Udonis Haslem as he goes out the door as a Heat player, saying, "You know what, UD, you really fought the good fight 20 years in the league, but we're going down tonight, kid. We're going down. We have to take a dive."
I think it works out because they have nothing left, and I think they'll give it their best shot, and their best shot has been ass the last month. So I think I'm going to root them on and watch them lose. That's what I think.
You really believe they're going to lose this ball game tonight?
They're going to lose. If they're within single digits, I'll be surprised.
Wow.
I mean, they look like a team that is just, we've watched the Dolphins for more than 2 decades be what that is. They look like, and the Marlins, they look like a team that's just
doesn't have it. Yeah.
They look like they have nothing left. And to me, it's like, okay, if they have nothing left, why as a fan would I think more than that? Look, I don't think Jimmy Butler or I guess Lowry gave a last.
Jimmy Butler takes it seriously, doesn't he?
I just don't know. Bam.
Does he take it a little too seriously? What do you think?
I
mean, he should have a little fun out there once in a while, should he not? Jimmy Butler.
I think if he wins a title, you'll see a guy who is happy. I mean, he wants a ring so bad, and
it doesn't seem like everybody else is with him, though.
Oh, no.
And if they're capitulating to Jimmy Butler and he has the kind of night like he had against
horrible night.
Yeah, I mean against the Hawks, that and it was very uncharacteristic in that you couldn't imagine that these shots, that some of them weren't falling. It wasn't like he was just hoisting them up there and you thought, my God, is this guy off?
Layups.
But a lot of layups. He normally is outstanding at converting these kind of shots. It's highly unusual. You can't imagine that would happen to this man again. Can you?
I think he'll come out and play well, and I don't think we're going to get the same game from Lowry.
No, Lowry will never duplicate that game again in his career.
I don't know why. Look, it comes down, we've talked about this for 4 years now. It comes down to Bam. Bam Adebayo has all the physical talent in the world. The dude, for half a season or 2/3 of a season, was as good as any big man in the NBA. He at times was as good as any player in the NBA. He is probably the best defensive force in the league, and he has a really strong offensive skill set. Problem is, he forgets it when the games get big. He forgets it when there's a guy of any size at all opposing him, even though he can dominate that guy with size, like Vucevic or freaking the guy with the Hawks. They're not like physical beasts. They're not scary, but he sees them and he
Oh,
becomes
they're closer to big white stiffs.
a
Yeah.
cat. He becomes a meek cat in the corner. So when he's playing like that, the Heat fall off a cliff because there's only so much Jimmy can do. Like Jimmy,
But wasn't there time spent with psychiatrists and various shrinks, psychologists during the off season trying to convince Adebayo to become more assertive, which for the most part he did.
he did.
Where it wouldn't be a deal where he had a guy that he had a mismatch against in the low post, got the ball inside in perfect position, maybe even in such an advantageous position that all he had to do was like put up any kind of a shot. And instead, he would hold the ball for a second and then look around, and see who was rotating on the outside that he could dish off to. Hey, Tyler, what are you doing? Where are you? And then he would decide to take the shot, which ultimately would get blocked or come off as some kind of a brick. And and that was his problem. But it looked like he had overcome that, right?
For 2/3 of the year, he had.
What was it? Hypnosis he was under, and it wore off. I mean, what happened?
I don't know. He was averaging 21 and 10. He was like a legit. Oh my God, he's doing it! Thank God, Bam.
Yeah.
Then it just stopped.
No, he was great. I on this show during the course of the season, we always love having Ron Rothstein on.
A month and a half ago.
I don't know that Ron, would be inclined to overwhelmingly outrageous hyperbole when talking about a guy. Obviously, he's going to have an affinity and affection for the Heat players because he's around them so long and been such a big part long term with the franchise. I mean, how many years has it been overall? The entire time. He was gone for a period of time there. He coached the WNBA entry, the Miami Soul, when they were in a competition. He went for a while to Cleveland, right, as an assistant.
In Cleveland, the Pacers, and then I think the Pacers, and then back to the Heat.
Well, and it's funny. I was watching all that smoke thing last night with Matt Barnes, Steven Jackson, and the guest was Magic.
Nice.
And it was great. I mean, if you're a fan of basketball, I'm a big Magic Johnson fan, but yeah, I mean, and he is so engaging. And what he was saying, one of the things when they got around to talking about championship years and, where they ask if like the Pistons were a dynasty in Magic's opinion. And he did say that the Pistons defense was maybe the best in NBA history.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, they were allowed to get away with murder, too.
And that was Rothstein. And I don't even know if Chuck Daly, I mean, do you think Chuck Daly really did anything? I mean, except like look great in a suit, like the kind of guy that you would have nothing but respect for. And if you didn't respect him, there was a chance that something evil was going to happen to you.
I think he was a great coach in his own right. I think he also knew to surround himself with good assistants and let them be assistants. And
it was a different time, though, too. I mean, when Lambeer body slammed Larry Bird into the wood, and Bird got called for an offensive foul, that was a different time, right? I mean, they allowed these guys to be extremely physical. You don't see any of that going on today, including a lot of finicky calls about moving screens, where a guy inconsequentially moves like a bit away from the play, and they're calling this, and you're like, that's insane, Donaghy. Who do you have your money on? It's becoming more and more obvious, my friend. And, and that, is a problem in the NBA also because, the officials can be an overwhelmingly significant influence. Well, they can be in any sport, but, especially in the NBA if they're calling that bullshit at critical times. But be consistent. That's the old thing, right? If you're going to be a horrible official in the beginning of the game, be horrible throughout.
Just be consistently horrible.
Be completely suspect that you're on a take from somebody. I don't want to, imply anything about DraftKings. Especially not as we seek their affiliation, because that's the ultimate goal now of every sportscaster, is it not?
Honestly,
is to be, sitting here with a DraftKings logo on going, hey, listen, guys, step right up and bet your money.
I have plenty of room back here. I can
I'll give you Taylor Fritz overall number of games. What do you want to bet? Does this thing go 20 games, this thing that he's doing today, or does it go to a third set? What do you think? Take the over, number of games. Couldn't follow this. Speaking of over, and I mentioned this, I believe in our Defo and 5 thing. I was trying to do the calculation on it, and I just I couldn't keep it in my head anymore. Keep it straight. But had you put $100, and this is assuming that the average would have been an even money, because the Rays obviously were going to be favored in many of these games since they started out red hot. 13-0, your parlay of $100 on all 13 games so far into the season. If you had just, woken up from a dream and said to yourself, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put $100 on the Rays, and I'm going to keep parlaying them, until I decide I've made enough money off this thing, then I'm going to stop. Or I anticipate them losing.
They lose. Yeah, I mean, you
Yeah.
do the streak theory. You go until they lose.
Well, yeah, but I mean, then you go back to nothing. That's the problem if you're parlaying, Lubie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You would be putting $800,000 on tonight's game.
Yeah, see, that's my problem with your theories.
When do you stop? I mean, that's the question. When is enough? When do you have enough money that you don't want to risk it any longer, thinking that there's no way that they could win 14 in a row? What do you think, Libby?
I mean, they're going to lose.
Would you let it ride tonight? 800,000. You started with 100, and you're up to $800,000.
When I got up to 100,000, when I got up to anything with 1,000 attached to it, I'd be like, all right, you raise, I'm out.
Well, we did the math on this before. We were trying to figure out if you had parlayed UConn in the tournament.
Yeah.
And if you parlay them 8 times, you end up, I believe, with $25,800 or something like that. So the 9th game is worth 50. The 10th game is worth 100. So that's where you would have stopped after game 10.
I guess I probably would have stopped way before that.
11th game, 200. The 12th game is 400, and you have $800,000 approximately now.
They're gonna lose.
Why didn't somebody do that? What's wrong with you people? Wake up out there. It's a Degenerate Friday. These are the kind of things that you have to do. You have to do things that are criminally insane. Insane. That's how you make it big. Big money in gambling. Otherwise, you're just going to go steady drainage that everybody, experiences, right? It's like, is that pain persisting? I don't know. It's kind of like this thing that was happening with my wrist, right? I'm sure it's from chronic masturbation. What do you think, Libby? Can you screw up your ligaments that badly that over time they just wear out completely?
I don't know how often someone would be doing that they would hurt themselves, but I guess anything's possible.
Oh, they got a shot of Taylor Fritz's babe up there now. My God.
Good looking, but I mean, I don't know. She's more your wheelhouse than mine.
A little too much for me. A little too much. I mean, am I going to tell her, hey, go away? I don't want to have a drink with you if she comes over at the bar and says, can I buy you a drink, handsome?
She's a good-looking girl, but you know me. I like a little bit.
But I immediately assume she's, going to quote me a price, and it's going to be a lofty one after that.
She does sort of have that look. I'm not going to lie.
You're in Vegas. The hottest chick in the bar comes up to you all of a sudden and says, can I buy you a drink?
Especially in Vegas. I mean, Vegas.
Right? You have to assume that there's going to be a price tag coming. All right, we're coming back with the Greek. The Greek's, he'd be a good one to talk to about, this level of babe.
Yes, he would.
Is it worth the risk, Lubie?
Me, no, but you're talking, I mean, the Greek maybe. The Greek's done some interesting things in his times.
Yes. The stories are legendary, and I don't think he's revealed everything, right? I think he's barely scratched the surface, this man.
Pretty much.
Of the amount of debauchery that he's been involved in. All right, but he does it at a class level that, kind of seems to make it okay, right?
Yes, no, he treats women with respect. He doesn't treat them like pieces of meat. He actually, it's very reciprocal and respect-driven. He's a very respectful gentleman. He just also understands the world and accepts it for what it is.
And it's funny. This would be a good proposition bet. Will you get more shots of the girlfriend or Taylor Fritz, even though he's playing? Because the camera loves this woman. I mean, they can't get enough of her. All right, we'll talk to the Greek. He's coming up next. We'll get his thoughts about the Heat and whether or not they choke tonight. As Lubie is predicting, the Heat Nation, as we said, is trembling on its hands and knees right now.
I don't know if they're trembling. I think they're past all that, and we're just at acceptance.
Where is this Heat Nation on this? I feel
they want
maybe I've been out and about a little bit. There's zero buzz about this anywhere.
We want a lottery pick. I mean, we want this year done.
You would rather have the draft pick. Oh, you're one of those guys.
I don't even care about that. It's not the Dolphins should. No, I'm saying like this season has been such an abomination. Like I just would be happy to have it be done. Like I don't want to have to watch them.
And they appear to be sacrificial lambs if they go into the first round of the playoffs, as possibly your Florida Panthers will be, Lubie. That's a tough draw.
Well, they actually played well against the Bruins. Sue Freeman was at Landlubbers last night, and he and Ken had the theory, look, if you're going to do it, go for number one. If you lose, you lose. Who gives a shit? You're going to have to play them at some point. They actually play the Bruins well. So we'll see. I don't know. I'd rather have taken on the Devils, which are supposedly a really young team that aren't anywhere near the level of the Bruins, but this is where we are now because
they have the Hudson River Series, Devils and the Rangers.
Yeah, they do.
It's one of the first round series. The Hurricanes beat the Panthers last night, and I guess that's what shoved them into this position there, which is essentially shoving it up your playoff ass because the Bruins were historic this year. So could that, I mean, imagine that if they beat the Bruins in this series. Lubie, I mean, you could get a hell of a price on that. So it's a Degenerate Friday, and we'll talk to I guess he would be the James Bond of degenerates. Is that a fair characterization of the Greek who, seems to prosper almost as a matter of routine? So he's coming up next here in a moment. Hialeah Park, great place to, go and experience a casino lifestyle. I will tell you more about them coming up in just a few minutes as well. The Greek is going to join us. The professor has a big board. Mike Mayo is scratched due to flooding. And he's already got another insurance case, this guy.
That sucks.
I don't know, man. Did he dig a trench there in front of his house?
He's in a weird place. I mean, the fact that he uses the term "my home is in a basin" in South Florida is not great. I mean, it is what it is at this point. He's been there for years.
The pictures on the news were startling. I mean, what happened there?
Well, and that's the thing is, southern Fort Lauderdale, which is north of him, and Hollywood, Hallandale, which is south of him.
Yeah,
all got hit hard. He's
trenched
in the center.
Yes.
He's actually in the place where it was the worst of the worst.
And, the brilliant engineering when they first started filling in this swampland.
Yeah, not good.
They have it, sort of in that V effect there where all the water goes to Dania Beach.
It just sits there.
I feel for the man. I tell you what, they had some shots. Bad. It's one thing you have flooding from a hurricane, but this was just a rainy day. Record, a 1 in a 1,000 year event, they were terming this. 1 in every 1,000 years, you might see something like this, where the rain just dumps to the tune of 25 inches in one area in a short period of time. Personally, I'm happy that we have a reprieve from that, and let's hope that the people that have been incurring problems, as was with Mike Mayo, right? I mean, he's got water coming into his house. This cat, that's not good, right? You come home and who can get there? As he had, I still think that there had to be some slime ball motel between his place and the Hard Rock that he could have stayed at. No, I mean there's no Days Inn on that route on 595 heading west.
They're all full. Remember, just think about the area that got hit, and people needed somewhere to sleep. People just wanted to sleep somewhere.
Yeah,
they all were looking like Mayo was looking.
The ex-wife's house couch. Would you feel comfortable?
Yeah, but the problem is that your first place is, do I even do it? The issue is she lives 5 minutes from him. So it's like her area was better. That's the thing that sucks for him is like he was in an area where he wasn't around the flooding. He could have gone somewhere. That's why.
And it was like 4:30 in the morning, man. I don't know that I'm knocking on the ex's door.
He probably has a key or he probably has some way of getting in, I presume. Like he actually
really?
has.
I mean, she wasn't even be his friend on Facebook. She's giving him the key.
So, but that's what I'm saying. He respects her. They seem to have a thing where they know their place. They give each other their space. And if each other needs each other, they're there is what the relationship I get from.
Man, I tell you what, that's hard to conceive of. All right, we're coming back with the Greek in a moment. Now that.
The time.
4:30 in the morning. I don't think I'm going over to the X's. I'm just under any circumstance. It's 7:30. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
This comes from the great Defo Llama. It's the bets you don't make, the chances you don't take that can compromise an otherwise incredible life, my friend.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on The Defo Show.
The old Defo Llama was right about that one. Welcome back to another Degenerate Friday. Jeff DeForest, and of course we have Mike Lubie Lubitz. And speaking of, he would be the James Bond of degenerates.
100%.
A high-class level of being a sick degenerate. We welcome to the show a guy that we greatly admire for all of the things that he's done. And I believe, Lubie, that he really has only scratched the surface of some of the stories that he has to tell. I wouldn't mind having the rights to the book. The Greek joins us here on the show. Greek, how are you, my friend?
Good morning, guys. How are you on this Friday? Hope you guys are doing good. Always good to be on with you.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah. I mean, any impact there? I mean, were you betting on the number of inches of rain with any of your Vegas buddies?
No, I used to bet on the wind and hurricanes, but we don't bet on the rain.
I got over under 125. You got to lay a price though.
100%.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
All right. And you survived all this okay? Because it was pretty. I guess in Boca it was no problem, right?
He's north.
No, it was sunny in 85, so you're going to love this. So I go to my shoemaker yesterday, and he always does my shoes. Nice guy in Boca, right?
Yeah.
In Boca, nice area. I go in for my shoe shine. I love getting shoe shines. I do it 3 times a week, whatever. And he goes, "Hey, Greek, what's up? How you doing today?" And all of a sudden, he starts shaking his leg. He just opened up. I'm looking at him like, "What the hell's going on?" He moves his pants around, and all of a sudden, his gun hits the floor.
Oh, fine. That's good.
I look at him. I go, "What the hell is that? What is this, Plexico burst?"
Yeah.
He goes, "Sorry, Greek. Now, could you imagine that gun goes off?
Oh,
Yeah.
I get shot and I get killed to a shoe repair store.
Oh,
My mother would go nuts. The shoe repair store, I got shot."
I fear that's how it ends in some goofball fashion like that. That came out of nowhere. I always feared I was going to get hit in the head with a coconut when I was riding my way runners all the time, and or a duck, just flies into your face, and you're thinking, what a way to go out, man! Of all the different things, I guess it beats fiery crash, but that would have been unfortunate. But that's going to be everywhere now. I mean, the little kid that takes your shopping cart back to the store is going to be packing heat, because there are no restrictions anymore. No age limit, nothing. Every 9-year-old is going to have like an AK-47.
That's awesome. That's so sad.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
But they don't want your kid reading about Humpty Dumpty because he might have been, a cross-dresser. Who knew, right, with that outfit?
Exactly.
I was talking to George Clooney 2 nights ago, and I asked him, I said, "Dude, is there any room out in Lake Como? What do you think?"
All right. I mean, are you with the rest of the Heat Nation here? Which Lubie, every psychotic instinct, every paranoid element that you could possibly apply to thinking is in play here with these Miami Heat fans against the Chicago Bulls tonight. Greek, they're laying 5.5. They laid an egg, man. I mean, like a giant egg in their last game against the Atlanta Hawks. Not necessarily a team that you would think. And with apologies to Clint Capella, had a monster game there on the boards. But I mean, the Heat look like shit. I mean, that's about the only way you could put it. Lubie wants them to lose tonight, so they get a draft pick. What do you think is going to happen in the Chicago Bulls game tonight at whatever the arena is now called?
Well, the Heat are one of the worst teams in the NBA. I think number 29 or 30 against the point spread at home. I did like the Hawks yesterday. The Bulls are 3-0 against them this year. They don't match up well.
Right.
The performance in maybe, but I don't see them covering the point spread. Not at all.
All right. So right away, you're taking the points. Do you subscribe to Lubie's theory, which is, yeah, we're going to get slaughtered anyway by the Bucks, so why don't we just go out right now because the season sucks? Or do you believe that every team should go out there and try to win every game?
I mean, they should try.
Oh, I think every team should go out there and win. It's the credibility of the game. I mean, I agree with them. If they win, then they get the Bucks, and they're not going to beat the Bucks. And I think, well, last summer the Heat was the only team who really didn't do anything, and didn't really improve. We went back with the same lineup, and then we pick up Kevin Love, which is, like dating Kardashian's mom.
Yeah, these guys, Cody Zeller and Love, made me think that they were, in some, Jewish centers, 40 and over league.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Heat made a couple of mistakes with signings. Like, I like Robinson, but they gave him all that money. He doesn't get off the bench.
Yeah.
Lowry, I think, is, not what he once was, obviously. I think the Heat got to regroup and get some people. Jimmy Butler is still great. Love Jimmy Butler, but I don't see it. I don't see them winning tonight, unfortunately. I mean, what about the Tampa Bay Rays? How about that team? You realize that the Rays last Friday night, the Rays got 11,000 people that went to their game, but a local strip club had 13,000.
Yeah. No, they're not well supported. It's probably the most amazing franchise at this point in sports history because they've been able to sustain this over a number of years where you can't name a guy on their team. As soon as you become even remotely familiar with a player, he's on another team. And they turn over personnel constantly, and they're always a factor. Here at the Yankees, Cashman, if he had any hair, he'd be pulling it out thinking, how the fuck are they doing that? I've got $8 trillion worth of ball players here, and we can't get out of our own way. And these guys with a bunch of schmanks, 13-0.
Well, I mean, it also shows you in all sports, you know this, Steve. It's not the money how much you spend, it's how you spend it.
Yep.
They're a good organization that never gets support, but Tampa as the city supports their team. Lightning are always sold out.
Yes.
They're good.
Yes.
Yep.
Tampa Bay Bucks sold out. I mean, they were good. It's not like the team sucks because the old adage all the time in sports is that the team sucks and nobody comes. Like we just saw with the World Classic right down in Miami.
Yes.
And everybody's like, oh, there's no baseball fans. And that place was packed every night.
Yeah, crazy.
32,000 for Cuba, Venezuela, Japan, America. And so the old adage goes, if you put on a good product, people will come. Well, with Tampa, that's not true. Because the team has won 90 games for the last 15 years.
Yes.
And, they say that's where the stadium is. It's the St. Pete. It sucks, maybe. You could be right. But I think that team's going to end up, either them or Oakland's going to end up in Vegas.
The stadium is not in a great area. I got lost there one time. I was telling a story about how you can't go home again. I met some girl that I knew 50 years ago in college or prior in college. It's even longer than that now. In Tampa, where we had connected on Facebook. She looked great, but I should have realized that was her high school picture that she had up there on her profile page. And in the process of trying to find where this woman was at, I drove past the stadium and I was lost, and literally tumbleweed was blowing down the street. And I'm thinking, wow, look at that. That's that stadium, the Blunderdome, as they call it. And they were playing the Red Sox at that time. There wasn't a single car there. It was game was on in the process of being played, and nobody gave a flying one. I mean, it's amazing. The St. Pete, though, demographic would not. I mean, they might be the kind of people that you would see like at a spring training game, but you don't necessarily see them being season-long baseball fans. They had 20,000 yesterday, though, at the ball game, and yet the stadium looked empty.
No, that's good. They had 20,000. That's I'm impressed with that.
Yeah.
But again, they're the story of baseball so far. NBA playoffs kick off, so the real guys that are going to start playing tomorrow. We'll see what happens. And how about the Nets? They spend $55 gazillion and they suck, and then they lose everybody, and they make the playoffs.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
that's one of the weirdest seasons we've seen. Who do you like? I mean, to emerge with all of it.
I'm going to go with the Bucks and Phoenix.
Bucks and Phoenix make it to the finals, and who prevails in that? And well, I guess we'll give you time to think about that if it actually happens. But
I think the Bucks win it all.
Bucks win it all. Yeah, I mean, it would appear that would be the case. That they were superior to everybody else. I mean, overall during the season, nobody ever mentions the Denver Nuggets as a possibility, though. Greek, are you guys in Vegas, inclined to think they can do it?
No, I mean the big chatter is obviously the Warriors at 8-1 with Wiggins and LA at 14-1. I just don't see the Lakers doing it, but that's where a lot of money is dropping on the Lakers and Warriors.
What about in this opening series? I mean, you have Memphis and the Lakers. Memphis, has a guy in a psycho ward who, all of a sudden he must have been watching some Money Mayweather videos when, he all of a sudden, I mean, he's there like he's some rapper in a strip club, and a little identity crisis maybe.
I think Memphis can beat the Lakers.
They can be, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, sure. I would expect them to.
That's the
I think that they definitely.
Yeah, I've been touting the Lakers all year because I just think, when James and Anthony Davis are both playing, they're tough with almost any configuration behind them. And they went out there and got D'Angelo Russell. And, they have Reeves came out of nowhere and all of a sudden is playing like he's Kurt Rambis. And, they have a reasonable supporting cast. That guy Schroeder.
No, they do. Again, odd-wise, it's like the track, it's a long shot, so they're worth it at 14-1. But to me, I don't know. I just don't think they got the horses, and we'll see. I think that Phoenix Durant is such a big difference, and he's rested. So if he can, turn it on, I think he'll be the big factor to me out there. For good, but
what kind of price you getting on the Phoenix Suns?
Murray, and then that's it. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. One final thing, Greek. Now, are you betting any pucks? By the way, do you bet hockey?
I don't bet hockey. No.
No. All right.
No. And Phoenix is 5-1. Win it all.
Who is?
Phoenix
is 5-1.
Oh, 5-1. Okay. Reasonable, I guess. Like you said, with Durant, they were unbeaten, I believe. I don't know if they lost one of those token games at the end of the year, but I think they never lost when they had Booker and Durant in a lineup. All right, one final thing. Question of protocol here. Lubie says this isn't his type. I don't know if you've ever seen the girlfriend of the tennis player Taylor Fritz, who's in action right now in Monte Carlo. And, this is one of those times where you don't even care if they show any of the action. They could just put the score up and have her on camera the entire time. But have you been with a woman that most people consider to be just an overwhelming beauty? And is it at all intimidating, to be in the presence of that kind of female?
Well, first of all, my whole life.
Yeah. Silly question. I'm asking you. Right?
I mean, no, it's always flattering and nice if you're with somebody pretty who likes you, obviously. You got to realize, my dad always said pretty girls are born on third base.
Yep.
I think the prettier, the more whack they are, obviously. But yeah, I never thought I was with somebody I didn't deserve to be with, or I outkicked my coverage. I never thought that, personally.
And for Taylor Fritz, I mean, look, the guy's he's a top American tennis player. He's been doing very well. He's making a lot of finals, winning some tournaments, and he sort of has the look of, it's like John Mayer with a racket, and that Mayer did well with the ladies.
Yeah, I mean, I think all these people is who you hang out with. The one thing I thought was interesting in our society today is like Brooks Koepka last week in the Masters was playing. I don't know if you guys saw this, and there was a real hot brunette with a baseball hat behind him, and she got blown up like 4 million people. Like, look at this girl. And, that's where Pamela Anderson got found. Same thing. Remember Alabama's when they were in the NBA finals, NCAA, and Brett Musburger went crazy. What's the name's quarterback? You see a lot of that.
Yeah.
No, I think that's right. His girlfriend. He ended up marrying that girl. But I'm saying, I never thought that personally. I hear a lot of guys say it in front of the girls, like, oh, she's too hot, da-da-da-da. But, I think everybody's equal, and I'm a nice guy, you're a nice girl, and you know what? Let's get out the twister board and see what happens.
All right. Well, when you get off with us, and I always have great appreciation for you coming on the show. Google Taylor Fritz's girlfriend.
I just
Taylor
texted
Fritz's
you
girlfriend.
2 pictures of her. I texted you, Greek, 2 pictures of her.
All right.
Look
Yeah.
at
All
your
right, hold on. Let
text.
me see.
Yeah.
I
See if
didn't get it yet.
give us some kind of
hold on.
judgment if you can there. And I don't know. We're probably not allowed to post a picture here.
No, I'm
I'm not sure
I'm
what
not going to
the
post it.
restrictions would be.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to post it here.
Yeah. That's all we need is a lawsuit right now.
We can't post it.
Yeah. I mean, she's hot. I mean, 3 in the morning, she calls me. She's at Wawa and she needs $4 for gas. I'm going.
Yeah, for sure.
If she asks you for 500, for a one night stand, are you going?
Of course. What's wrong with you? I brought to give her 10 dimes. 500.
It's a reason to watch tennis. It really is, man. I mean, there were always, phenomenal babes associated with most of the men players, but this one, is universally recognized as supposedly one of the hottest broads on the planet. So,
I traded
what's that?
Nick courtside tickets. I traded one time Nick courtside tickets for 2 Rockettes one night. So first I'm going to give her 500.
Yeah,
I mean,
500. That was a little low. 5 dimes. I would have said 5 dimes, and you probably would have gone to 10. Where do you draw the line on that one, Greek? 50?
Would I ever pay $50,000 for somebody for a night? No,
One night.
not
No?
50,000.
50
All right.
is the
No.
limit there.
All right.
Five
So 10
dimes,
is the limit.
Because I figure I'm helping the economy and all that other stuff.
Hey, she's going to be able to send her children to dance lessons, because you shop locally.
But if it's 5,000, I also want the whole experience. The pancakes in the morning that look like Mickey Mouse, that whole thing.
Yeah, all right. That should include at least a continental breakfast downstairs. All right, Greek, we love you, man. Good luck with all of your wagers, and thanks so much for being with us. It's always a pleasure.
Love you, Greek. Thank you.
You're the best, right? Peace.
All right.
Oh, my God.
All right, so the Greek would go to 5 dimes for this woman. If and that's the only way that you end up, in bed with. I mean, I don't want to say with something like that. I mean, it's obviously possible, right? We saw, what was, the famous case there where the woman checked out at the Hard Rock and she was marrying the 100-year-old guy, Anna Nicole Smith. Yeah. I mean, who was the guy in that whole thing? Not the 2 guys that were battling, claiming it was the kid.
I don't remember. He was an old rich guy.
Who was the old guy?
He wasn't a famous old rich guy. He was just an old rich.
I mean, do you think he thought he was dreaming already? Like that he had already seen the light?
No, when you're rich as hell, you expect to get things like that your way. What do you mean? These guys never are like nebbishes.
Yeah.
Like these guys are always cocky. Like when you're rich, look at all the crap that all these old rich guys pulled. Like you don't pull that if you're anxious. Like freaking Lauer. None of these guys were great looking, but they have money. When you have money, it gives you a lot of confidence.
All right, we're getting some steam on this. Big Possum is right. Women weaken legs. But Fritz somehow is able to overcome that. And then beyond that, Julian checks in and says this woman, do they have a name there when you Googled her, Lubie? I hate to keep just referring to her as this woman.
As a name.
She graduated from
Morgan
Wagner.
Riddle. Morgan Riddle.
All right. And there she is again. I mean, they can't stop showing her. I'm telling you, that's the 100th shot they've had of the box applauding. I mean, Taylor Fritz throws the ball in the air, swings and misses, and they go right to a shot of her. It's great, man. All right, coming back, the professor's going to join us. He's got a big board for us, and I would imagine some predictions on something, right? Australian rules football.
Australian rules football. He went 1-1 last week, so this
Very
is
nice.
He said, "Screw baseball, screw basketball. I'm honing in on Australian rules football," and he does a damn good job.
This is his wheelhouse, and it became the pandemic actually, as much devastation as it caused. I mean, some good things emerged, including the professor's acumen for handicapping Australian rules football, because that was only done out of desperation. Yes. All right, we're coming back with the professor and a big board for this week on a Degenerate Friday, the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie Lubitz, back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
Big Possum says Musburger's running camera for the Tennis Channel. That could be, man. Boy, he was obsessed with that woman. McElroy's girlfriend at the time. She was like a Miss
Well,
Alabama or
I
something.
think it was AJ McCarron's girlfriend. It was AJ
Yeah. Oh, McCarron. Why am I saying McElroy? McElroy's playing golf. It's 7:51.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
I don't get it. I don't understand what's going on in America. And again, if you're feeling like, what the hell is the point of being a billionaire if you're going to, I mean, like, as much as Donald Trump talks about the Justice Department out to get him and witch hunt, here's a real witch hunt. The real witch hunt is Ben Affleck in an Afro wig portraying you in a major movie that is constantly advertised during the Final Four. I would take a New York indictment over this 10 times out of 10. Every day of the week and twice on Sunday, if my choices were go to prison for a couple of years over sex with a porn star or having Ben Affleck in a curly wig make you look like, and honestly, this is one of the better looking pictures. He looks like a much bigger asshole than most of the rest of the preview. Like, how you let this happen if you're Phil Knight, how you actively signed up for this if you're Phil Knight, I have no idea. Like, I assume it's just that Affleck and Damon ambushed him with this. Like, he had no idea. He signed off, and then he got to actually see what he's being made to look like. Like, Phil Knight, I mean, hey, look, we all know you have spent your life torturing children in your Chinese factories. And that's going to go down as a much more positive note than this stupid fucking movie. Like, I would much rather have them had left Ben Affleck out and made a movie about what goes on in your Chinese factories than have Ben Affleck make you look like this.
Enjoy your trip to work with lots of laughs thanks to Defo and Lubie. Now on the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show, a Degenerate Friday, and it's always a pleasure to welcome this gentleman to the program. And I'm going to assume, Professor, that you did not venture out to the local theater to see this flick when it came out last week. Is that a fair assumption?
That's really, I mean, come on, man, that's offensive.
Offensive.
Did anybody go see this thing? I mean, I have heard nothing about it since
I mean, it got a lot of positive reviews,
Did it really?
which makes me think that nobody saw it. They just made that shit up because there's no way you went and you saw it and you were like, oh, yeah, this is a great movie. Matt Damon in a fat suit pretending to be Sonny Vaccaro. I don't think you're watching that and then being like Martin Scorsese and be like, this is cinema. No.
It would have been more believable if Matt Damon was Sonny Liston.
It would have been more believable if Matt Damon put on an Italian accent and was Sonny from A Bronx Tale. Honestly.
See. Here's what you got to do.
I didn't see it. Apparently, the entire freaking world went to go see Super Mario Brothers, which is another one. I really didn't know kids still played Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, they love
40 years. I mean, we were playing it when I was a kid. So, I mean, big up to Nintendo. Really, you make that shit last forever because there's like literally nothing in the world that is still around from when I was a kid that kids are still doing today. Like the toys we had. I mean, can you imagine showing a kid a ViewMaster these days? A little thing where you click and watch the.
Oh,
They'd
boy.
be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
How about melting
They have
wax
virtual
in?
reality Google headsets now. We don't need that. What is this pictures in a spinning wheel shit?
I mean, imagine me taking the grandchildren and melting some wax into a bottle cap and teaching them how to play Skelly on the sidewalk.
There you
Not
go.
happening today. Yeah,
Right? Yeah, no.
they would laugh at the notion. I mean, of this primitive form of entertainment.
Your baseball cards are like NFTs on your phone now. So, like, the idea of putting them in your bicycle spikes to make
Yeah.
your bicycle sound like it goes. That's number one. They would be like, "Who pedals a bicycle? We have e-bikes now, asshole." And number two, they would be like, "Why would you put that in the spokes of your bike? We have a phone." Like,
Right.
this is where our baseball cards are now. We don't have that crap anymore.
Plus, they'd be more inclined at 8 or 9 to actually be packing heat and just shoot a gun off to make that sound.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
again, we did so. Again, compliments to Nintendo, who somehow managed to keep a plumber fighting a monkey relevant for 40 years. I mean,
Yeah.
I got to think whoever back in the day in Nintendo was really messed up on probably some poison puffer fish sushi and about a gallon of sake. They asked him, like, "What's your idea?" "Plumber." "What's it do?" "Fight monkey." "Okay, let's run with that."
Yeah, I mean, stranger ideas have flown and enjoyed longevity. I wasn't aware either that Super Mario was still even a thing. So and I don't know that the grandkids are playing Super Mario, but they all wanted to go to the movie.
The movie was
Everybody
There
wanted
you
to go
go.
see it. So, and then as a parent, you're dragged into it. I don't know. Do you pretend to get into it, or would you just be watching the Fourth at Aqueduct on your phone while you were in the theater?
I haven't seen it, so I can't speak to it. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not the type to do a lot of faking for the sake of the children on that. I'm more of the type's going to ask you, like, "Okay, why do you like this? Why are
Right.
you into this?
Yeah. What's wrong with
I don't get it.
you?
What's
What's
wrong with you
next?
kids these
Yeah,
days?"
drag
I
queen.
look honestly, I feel this more trying to watch like TikTok videos than that are real people than cartoons and to whatever the kids are into these days. Because like
Uh,
I you know I hate being the crabby old man, but I'm fully agreeing with the opinion that this all turns you into an idiot. Like, honestly, I mean, that there's certainly a lot of bright and achieving young people out there who will do great things, but how you manage that in this era with the idiot forms of entertainment you guys have now embraced, is beyond me.
and use your imagination. That used to be the thing. We went out and created our own games and
Yes,
did
yes,
whatever, and
yes.
in a gentler world. It really was. Although my 4-year-old grandson a phenomenal vocabulary, so maybe that's a byproduct of all of this stuff that they have access to that you couldn't conceive of. I mean, think about this. You got a 4-year-old kid, and he's playing. I think he was playing online poker on his phone. He was like,
Yeah, I actually
I
think
just
that's the
bluffed out
Apple
Johnny
fall.
Chan and Phil Hellmuth,
I
to
say
win a pot.
between you and the great Jesse, I think that's actually the Apple falling pretty close to this day. I don't. I think that
He has
may have been in the genetics from the start.
certain degenerate tendencies already beginning to surface. All right. Speaking of degeneracy, will you be involved at all? You don't get involved in any NBA action, do you? I
I
mean,
mean,
will
I
you bet
did
the
the
Heat
other
game?
night and took it straight up the tailpipe on both of the first batch of NBA play-in
Heat
games
Hawks?
where
Yeah.
the Miami Heat decided to not show up even remotely, where fat Kyle Lowry was the best player on the court for the Miami Heat, which probably told you exactly what kind of flaming pile you were going to go down in. And then had the Lakers in the second game, which I said at halftime, I was like, watch now, because the refs are going to get involved and totally stick it up the Timberwolves' ass, which they completely did, but not quite enough to get us over the line at
Right.
laying 8. So again, yeah, it didn't go well. So I quit for now. Honestly, Lubie and I were just randomly talking about it. I'm not personally going to play it, but if I were inclined to get involved, I would bet on the Chicago Bulls and take the 5.5. It's not a real good matchup for the Miami Heat to begin with. And then, DeMar DeRozan's daughter randomly just
Yes.
screaming at people seems to be the most effective defense I have seen a team come up with in years. So hey, Billy
Oh,
Donovan,
what?
very very innovative there. Let's have a small child just issue a piercing scream
back.
at the top of her
Shrieking,
young.
yeah, when you're in just as you're releasing a free throw, yeah. While the home arena is quiet for their own guy, which would be the case again tonight.
Again,
So
Scotty Barnes came out and said he heard her and that it definitely influenced some of the free throws. So, hey, again, give it up for the DeRozan family. Somehow nobody in the NBA has ever come up with this before.
I didn't know DeRozan had a daughter. And what age? I mean, would you say this young girl was?
I think 7
Did
or
you
8.
figure that out? Like 8, maybe 9
Yeah, I
years
think
old?
probably like 7 or 8.
Like 6 to 8.
What? I mean, you thought Yoko Ono somehow was sitting courtside. That's how.
I
Absolutely
thought
chilling
it was
this screech was.
the first couple of times I heard it. I thought it was Linda Blair from The Exorcist. Honestly,
You expecting to get hit with a bunch of pea soup
no,
if you were sitting in
honestly,
front
you
of her? Yeah.
thought that Drake was beating a small child in the audience in Toronto or something. The way that was going on, they were gonna pan around the arena and find some ex-Maple Leaf beating up a little girl. The way this girl was screaming, it was terrifying.
Yeah, it was. It was, quite startling if you were, in a quiet arena all of a sudden, and then she let out this shriek. Should they have escorted her away? I mean,
No,
would
look,
that have
I
been
mean,
appropriate?
Loud.
I mean, look, people have done obnoxious crap to people at the free throw line since
Yeah.
the dawn of humanity. I don't see why this is actually any different. I mean, look, guys have talked about it. People scream stuff about their mom. People scream stuff about their wives.
Yeah.
People have been screaming at you during free throws and trying to distract you. That's the whole thing. I mean, I remember, one of the things with Duke was they would have a big picture of rat face, a giant head, and wave it at the players with that,
Yes.
that rat face look. I would be much more distracted by that than I would by a little girl screaming. So,
Now, if you were sitting in front of her, and obviously you be more inclined to be rooting for the home team, would you have elbowed her in the face at some point?
She's a kid, so no, but
No?
for the adult, yes.
No, but the professor, I mean, he beat up a mascot.
I got to be honest.
Beat up a mascot. Think about it.
Someone asked me this question because I
Yeah.
did not bet on the game, but someone asked me, I have a 2-part question. Number one, did you gamble on the game? And number two, would your behavior towards this little girl be influenced by gambling on the game? And I said, number one, I did not gamble on the game. But number two, we have long learned betting on basketball will make you into the worst human being.
Yes.
And you will be racist. You will think things again, I have had thoughts go through my head a dude who's a good friend, like Steph Curry. I've been betting against the Warriors at some point and watching him go to the free throw line and thinking, well, what if Steph Curry just died right now on the court? What if he had a massive heart attack
you're hoping.
and just collapsed on the court? You will.
It's like we were rooting for Ali to get knocked out in that Larry
For some
Holmes fight.
reason, basketball really, even more than other sports, will make you into a terrible person.
Yes.
So yes, I absolutely would have influenced my opinion on what to do with this little girl if I had money on the Toronto Raptors the other day.
All of a sudden, her teeth are in the middle of her Adam's apple.
I know. I would have fully advocated security dragging her little ass out by the hair.
Yeah. Imagine if James Dolan had to experience
had
this.
money and was watching the Raptors blow a 19-point lead because this little girl was totally freaking them out on the free throw line.
Right, and they bricked her like 13 or 14 free throws in a game.
If I've got money on the Raptors and this little girl is causing them to miss 18 free throws, I would fully endorse Charles Oakley just going there and slapping her like he did James Dolan that time.
Really, send somebody into the stands, man.
Right?
Somebody you can afford to lose for a game.
She's like 6 or she's 8 or whatever. How hard can it be to shut her up?
Let's get her out of there.
Yeah.
No, again, all of this because betting on basketball, again, more than other sports, I don't really know because I have been around otherwise good people I know who will again turn into Klansmen at the end of a basketball game. No, give it to the white guy. You're not letting the white guy shoot the free throw. I have seen it happen. I have seen otherwise normal, cool human beings turn into David Duke at the end of a basketball
Yes.
game.
All right. What are we going to be wagering on if it's not going to be the Heat? Australian
It'll be
rules?
again. I would take the Bulls, not the Heat, but yes, we're gonna take Aussie Rules Football, who, as we noted last week, we went 1-1. We were on the right side of, I believe it was St. Kilda, on the wrong side of the other game. One of the things I was noting to Lubie, and I only picked up the Aussie Rules Football thing when COVID first started suspending
Right.
sports, because it was like the first major thing that came back when COVID basically ended the sports world for the couple weeks there. One thing I have noticed, and I don't know if this is the nature of the sport or is this just a coincidence, but like every team that was really top flight when I picked this up 3 years ago is now old and terrible. And every
Wow.
team that was young and terrible then is now good. So I don't know if it's just like you peak in Aussie Rules Football when you're like 22 years old or just a coincidence. I tend to suspect, given the physical nature of ways play, like your body is ruined by the time you're like 25.
Sure.
So it's just a natural cycle of the sport itself. But we're going to go back to a couple of originals there. A team that was on the fade when we first picked the sport up, but who we loved and got a couple of late covers that year, and it is now improving. We're taking North Melbourne, the Kangaroos. The Roos are getting 28.5 tonight from Brisbane. And I don't think Brisbane's good enough to cover at 28.5. And I think the Roos are actually going to surprise some people by the end of this year. I think you're going to see it turn around. I think they'll be playing in the Cup playoffs come the end of the year. So we're getting on it early before the lines turn against us. And we're taking the Roos plus 28.5 tonight.
No, the 28.5 for the uninitiated, like I would be.
It would be the
is it
equivalent
representative? Is it like a 13-point dog in the NFL?
No, it's not quite that level. It would be the equivalent of like just over a touchdown in the NFL. Again,
Oh, okay. So
in Aussie
it sounds like a
rules-
lot of points.
in the Aussie rules, a lopsided matchup often produced. Look, last week we had St. Kilda laying 12.5. They won by 40. Like a lopsided, like a
Wow.
2-touchdown win in Aussie usually translates to somewhere between like 40 and 50 points. So, yeah, this would be the equivalent of like maybe 7.5, 8 over a touchdown, but not a lot over a touchdown.
Okay, because it
Somewhere
sounded like they
between
were
7 and
overwhelming
10
dogs. Yeah.
Somewhere between 7 and 10 in an NFL game. Speaking of which, this would be
Yeah.
something just under a touchdown. A couple teams that were power now are both on the fade, but we have an opinion here, and that is Western, the Bulldogs, getting 14.5 from Port Adelaide. I don't think Port Adelaide's good enough to cover 14.5. It doesn't justify it for anybody. And Western actually played pretty well last week, so we're going to come back with the Bulldogs for a bounce back week here, getting 14.5 from the power. So those are our two plays this week. 1-1 last week. Hoping to pick it up this week. We're taking the Roos plus 28.5, and we're taking Western plus 14.5.
All right. Many things swirling about in the sporting world and of course, the world in general. So we're ready for the big board for this week. The professor's
Oh, are we
big
doing the
board.
big board this week? Okay. Well, last week, after an unfortunate interruption, although I would want to note, we did mention on the big board last week that our way too early power rankings for next year's college basketball.
Yeah.
Miami's ranking was dependent on John Ruiz still having some money left.
Yes.
And seems pretty clear with the developments of this week that John Ruiz's life wallet bag, if it's not totally empty, it is significantly lighter than it was last week. The Cavender twins not only leaving Miami, but leaving Miami to go on TV, go on the Today Show, and announce they're planning on joining the WWE.
Yes. That seems
that's
like a strange
rough
crossover. Yeah.
transition there.
Well, The Rock did it. The Rock did well with that.
Oh, good.
He
Yeah.
went football to the WWE. I feel like that's much more natural.
And he had to rest his family. His family.
There's two little 5'5" blonde girls
Yes.
leaving college basketball
No
to
rest.
go join the WWE. I think that's not the same transition as The Rock.
Maybe they become, entrenched in evil. And, all of a sudden they're seen as villains.
I mean, that would be a great. Honestly, I would like to see that toward. If
Yeah.
they went and their heels,
Heel.
I would like to see that transition. I'm not going to lie.
It would be interesting, wouldn't it? If all of a sudden they, had some kind of strange vial of, poison that they inflicted on their opposition there, and nobody could figure out, what the deal was.
If
And,
one of them pretended to be Japanese and spit the green mist into other
yes,
people's
yes,
faces,
exactly. They go
I
Kevin
agree
Sullivan.
that would be a great
Yeah.
gimmick for them.
And we wish them
Speaking of
well. That we wish him
Speaking
well.
of that,
Yes.
and it's interesting. It plays into the big board. Just a couple of things we've thrown around here already on the show because Julian was mentioned that I picked up a sponsor, which I did absolutely not.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned the word transition because we've had a couple of interesting developments going on in the world this week. And there's a little story to tell before we get into the big board itself.
All right.
This is a woman, I guess you want to say she's a transgender woman, a trans woman named, I believe her name is pronounced Dylan Mulvaney. I do not know who this person is before last weekend, but for those unfamiliar, this is a trans woman, a transsexual woman who has something like 12 million followers on TikTok, hugely influential on TikTok. Now, I am an adult male, so I don't watch TikTok. So I don't know exactly what TikTok's all about. And thus, I had never heard of this person until last weekend. But apparently, she picked up a sponsorship from Bud Light over the weekend. Now, again, as a restaurant owner myself, I really did not know that there was a big connection between cheap, crappy beer and the homosexual, transsexual, the LGBTQ community. I didn't know there was a huge connection there. If you had told me cheap Prosecco for mimosas was sponsoring a trans influencer, I would have said that's a natural connection. But if you had told me there was a big Bud Light crowd among the LGBTQ, not my experience, but maybe there is. So again, I don't know anything about this person other than, again, and I got to be honest to set the stage here. I don't really know that much about the whole transsexual thing because apparently this woman is still has male genitals, which upsets some people, and has a bunch of corporate sponsorships, including Bud Light, including Nike. The most confusing one to me is Tampax because if you have male genitals, I don't know where you're putting the Tampax.
Well, there's only one other appendage that would apply. Yeah.
Again, I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I'm not trying to figure it out. It's not something that really impacts my life. Naturally, of course, certain elements of the political right wing in this country had the exact sort of calm, well-measured reaction you would expect in response to that. For example, Kid Rock shot up a bunch of cases with Bud Light with a machine gun, which
what does that mean? I don't know.
I'm not
It's a
sure
mature reaction.
I'm
Sure.
not really sure that's a great reaction, but that seems to be where we're in America these days. We're now taking culture war cues from Kid Rock. I don't really think I was ever really at a point in my life where I was prepared for that. I really wasn't. If you had told me 20 years ago that like the conservative movement was now going to be leaning on the cultural opinion of Kid Rock, I would have been like, really? I'd have been like,
Seems
okay,
far-fetched.
I'm going to be honest with you. I won't be living in America at that point. So I was not prepared for America 2023. But I will tell you, my personal opinion on this is that the right wing should kind of be thanking Dylan Mulvaney at this point. You should, because I will say, if you're an adult male or an adult in general and you are employed, there's really no bad reason to quit drinking Bud Light. Like if Dylan Mulvaney is what made you stop drinking that swill, you should be thanking her for that. She has done you a favor. And more to the point, I don't really want to delve into the whole politics thing, but you know, you guys, you do you. That's where I am. But I will say, I don't like calling people homophobes or anything like that. But I will say this when it comes to this Bud Light issue. If you have now quit drinking Bud Light because of Dylan Mulvaney, and as mentioned here on the big board, the very first big board, you didn't stop drinking Bud Light when Guy Fieri started endorsing cherry-flavored malt liquor swill made by Bud Light, then yes, you may have some personal issues when it comes to the transsexual community. If it took this to make you give up Bud Light and Guy Fieri didn't stop you, you may have some personal issues. And you're going to say, hey, Ken, you know, say what you will about Guy Fieri, but this woman is trying to turn our children into transsexuals. She's grooming them. Here's my question. What the hell has Guy Fieri been grooming America for the last 25 years on television? I will tell you, diabetes, heart disease, and irritable bowel syndrome. Like, say what you will about this Dylan Mulvaney person. I don't know if cross-dressers really turn kids gay or not. I tend to suspect probably not, because I saw a lot of cross-dressers growing up. Not once was I like, you know what? I either want to bang Martin Lawrence when he dresses up like Shanae, or I want to put on a dress like RuPaul. No, never once did I have those thoughts.
I'm with you.
On the other hand, Guy Fieri has killed more Americans than the Civil War did. 25 years on television trying to get people to eat 2,500 worth of calories worth of fried grease.
Yes.
And you're not revolting against this man. But now this trans influencer drinks a Bud Light on camera, and you've lost your fucking minds. I'm going to be honest. I don't get this. Which brings us all to this week's big board.
That was just a prelude to the big board. That's
the
amazing.
Big board
Wow.
of bad athlete endorsement ideas.
Oh,
And I will tell you from the top, this is not a comprehensive list, because there have been so many of these through the years. I could spend every big board from now through football season doing just this topic, and really basically only scratch the surface of the national commercials. You get into the local commercials.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole period of time where apparently Mike Ditka endorsed every business in Chicago that couldn't afford Michael Jordan. Like, I think there were loan sharks who Mike Ditka was going on TV in Chicago and endorsing.
Phil drafted in behind Tiger and picked up a lot of scratch.
No, by no means. I got Phil Mickelson's another one. I could just Phil Mickelson taking shady Middle Eastern money is something I could do like a month work on just by itself. So no, by no means a comprehensive list, but let's kick off here. Yeah. Number 5, the big board of celebrity endorsement ideas, which is the Ray Lewis Snuggie. I had no idea this product existed. I had no clue. This is, of course, in 2010, so well after a certain incident. I find it tough to believe that nobody, while making this commercial, pulled aside and said, hey, guys, I know this keeps you warm at a football game, but you know what it could also do? It could cover up your clothes from blood spatter if a couple of your friends are, for example, stabbing 2 people to death outside of a nightclub.
Yeah. Never mind that white mink coat he was wearing or whatever. Yeah.
Between this particular product and covering yourself up from blood splatter seems to me like a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, an odd choice of endorsers, no question. Maybe for some kind of steroid, laced product.
Yeah, exactly. Like a GNC thing.
Yeah.
Like a GNC thing.
Yeah.
Again, it never occurred to anybody that this could be used to prevent murder evidence. I find it hard to believe.
Oh my God.
Ray Lewis, if I'm distinct, with the money store by any chance?
No, he does not. Although we do have one from that era, which we will get to.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great.
Here in a moment. Number 4, again, I didn't believe this was a real product. I actually thought that this was like a riff on a Dave Chappelle skit that somebody made up on the internet, but it's 100% true. Number 4, everybody needs it these days. Little financial help out there. Maybe need a loan, maybe need a mortgage, maybe you just need help with an investment product. Like, who doesn't want their 401k to be managed well? Well, if you're looking for that, do I have this now defunct service for you, which is Ric Flair Financial. Yes, this was a real company.
Get out of here.
Ric Flair and his management team tried to start a financial services company in 2007. It ended just about as well as you'd think it ends, with multi-million-dollar class action lawsuits. But really, who wouldn't want their money managed by a man who brags about spending upwards of $50,000 for his wrestling robe? Who wouldn't want their investments handled by a man who, in his own documentary, says he has owned 30 Rolex watches in his life because several times he gets drunk in bars, takes them off, and leaves them behind? Yes, that seems like a great guy to manage my money.
You want to see it go up in smoke, for sure. Yeah, 50 dimes for a bathrobe does seem a little bit extravagant.
Woo!
All right, Ric Flair. Ric Flair.
But all your money ends up in alligator shoes and hair dye. You may have invested with Ric Flair Financial. And again, I love Ric Flair. Put the market in a figure 4. I don't care. But, I mean, really? Of all the things I'm going to get Ric Flair's bar seems like a complete natural, although he's probably going to drink all the profits himself. But, again, having your 401k managed by Ric Flair does not seem like the greatest idea of all time.
No, I mean, you might consider Smith Barney at that point. Our friend Damon suggests that don't forget about the deer antler spray that Ray Lewis was endorsing.
Yes.
Remember?
Again, that would have been if Ray Lewis was endorsing deer spray, I'd say that's not a bad idea. That's a perfect idea. Ray Lewis endorsing murder clothes? I don't think that's a great idea to push on America.
All right, we're at number 4 with Ric Flair. Number 3 coming up.
Number 3 was one it's old, the picture's blurry. I'm warning you ahead of time, but it tells you where endorsement ideas were, and this came right after he won his first NBA championship, and that is Wilt Chamberlain's first national campaign, which was for a laxative, and he did it with his mother. Wilt Chamberlain's first national television campaign was for Fletcher's Castoria oil for children, which I guess Will didn't want to acknowledge any of his children at this point. So instead, he had a conversation on television about laxatives with his mom. Now, look, everybody loves their mom.
Yeah.
Everybody wants their mom to be healthy, but this is not a conversation I'm going to have with my mom. Of all your health problems, if this is one, I don't want to hear about it. Like, again, we can talk about any issue and have a mature, sober discussion, except about this. I don't want to know about your choice in laxative. And honestly, how a children's laxative was going to handle Wilt Chamberlain, I have no possibility. How many gallons of this stuff did he have to drink to get the intended effect? Did they have to wheel it out in an oil barrel? Wilt freaking Chamberlain.
Yeah.
He's a big
You
dude.
need the janitor and a drum side.
Exactly.
You would have to be buying that at Costco for sure.
Again.
Oh my God.
And I'll be honest, if you were capable of giving birth to Wilt Chamberlain, I don't think you needed the children's prize either. I would assume if Wilt came out of there, the plumbing was plenty loose.
A fair assumption, no question.
Oh my God.
All
That's 3.
right, that's number 3.
Number 2,
I'm scared of this.
again, there's been a lot of these over the years.
Yeah.
Obviously.
We need all sorts of products to make us not stink as badly. We've had deodorant products, body wash products, perfume products, but this is for very, very specific need, and that is Defo. Have you ever wanted to go out on a night in the town, maybe a first-time starter, maybe the Mustang, just wanted to smell good, be attractive, special evening? How about a scent that makes you smell like you're overdosing on cocaine in a whorehouse?
Worse than smelling like weed.
This is Unbreakable Bond by Khloe Kardashian and Lamar Odom. Yes, Khloe Kardashian and Lamar Odom had a national perfume campaign launched, just in case you wanted to smell like Lamar Odom on any given evening. Again, I've actually been in the same room with Lamar Odom.
Yeah.
Lamar Odom smells of weed from 50 yards away behind a car door. I was, when we were doing the Marvin Jones show, Marvin and us went down to Miami one night for a comedy show. Lamar Odom happened to be there. You could smell Lamar Odom from the other side of the street while he was still in his car. That's how much weed Lamar Odom had on him at any given time.
Cheech and Chong's car, the van, and Up in Smoke probably didn't smell that bad.
Somehow, people thought it was a good idea to really. And again, I don't think Khloe Kardashian looks like she smells great either. If I'm being brutally honest about it. Of all the Kardashian sisters, she seems like she would probably give off the worst scent. But she's the stronger duo in this particular combination. Because again, when you think Lamar Odom, what do you think? You think overdosed on cocaine in a whorehouse. I don't know what else to.
It's hard to get away from that. It really is.
So if you want that particular scent, the Khloe Kardashian. Maybe you can still find a bottle of this. It's probably sitting in some warehouse somewhere because I can't imagine anybody bought this goddamn thing.
What is it? Eau de Aqueduct? I
Like,
mean, we were going to do the racetrack perfumes at one time. I thought that was a good idea, but couldn't get it off the ground. We weren't able to raise enough public funding to go public.
What is
with
this?
it.
I assume that they had a batch of Chanel. Okay, well, like, are you familiar with how the beer Lowenbrow got created?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know how it got created. No, but
A batch went bad. It got burned, and it was so large that the brewer was like, "Oh, let's just try to sell it," and it became a brand. I feel like that's what happened here. Like Chanel No. 5,
yeah.
like had a rat die in the tank or something, and they pulled it out, and they're like, "Oh God, this smells terrible. This smells like a weed addict overdosed on cocaine." And they're like, "Oh wait, let's call Lamar Odom and Khloe Kardashian and see if we can get something going."
Oda Odom. It's excellent. All right, that's number 2. What tops the list here? Because
I feel like you should know, Defo. I feel like anybody who knows me should know this because there is a particular incident in advertising history that I have long been obsessed with. I have said if I ever do my own podcast, one of the episodes is going to be like a 4-hour investigation with the people responsible for this. There is one moment in athlete advertising and bad ideas that stand out more than all the rest combined, and that is the time Michael Jordan showed up on a Hanes commercial wearing a Hitler mustache.
Yeah, that was an odd touch. It really was.
I am obsessed with this incident. I would love to interview the Hanes guy who green-lighted this commercial. I would love to interview the director, who I have no idea who it is, who did this commercial and just said, like, what the hell did you think when Michael showed up on set and he was wearing a Hitler mustache? I have endlessly badgered people about this. Lubie's one of them. Lubie's heard about this probably 100 times from me. Again, the best explanation I heard is my buddy Michael, who thinks that he lost a bet to Charles Barkley or somebody and had to do this to pay off. I don't know what was going through Michael Jordan's head at this point, but here's what I really want to know. If you're the director of this commercial, just how far were you going to let Michael Jordan push this before you called to stop it? If you were a Hanes executive, just how far were you going to let Michael Jordan go with this particular theme before you said, Michael, we can't air this commercial? Like, if he pretended to point at something at the plane and did the Hitler salute, were you going to let him do that? Were you going to run the commercial anyway? If in the middle commercial, he started ranting about Jews for some reason, in the middle of the commercial, Mike's dropped like, well, Jews go on trains, not planes. Were you going to let Mike just go ahead and do that?
Yeah.
Again, how far was Hanes and the director of this commercial going to let Michael Jordan run with this thing before they stepped in? It was like, Mike, I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, that's weak. There's no question.
What did the makeup girl think when she came to sat down in the chair wearing a Hitler mustache? Because, I mean, really, you can say what you want about historical impact. There have certainly been people other people have ruined names. Like, you don't meet a lot of Judases in 2023.
Yep.
So there's been other ruined names. It's not just Adolf ruined, but this particular piece of facial hair, even in the era that we've lived through, where people grow weird ass facial hair with historical, you never see someone wearing a Hitler. It's honestly among the bearded and mustache weirdo communities, it's the one beard you don't see. You see people literally intentionally grow out Satan beards all the time. People like the little pointy Satan beard. I've seen that in South Florida more times than I count. Never once in public have I seen someone wearing a Hitler. Like, this is a very distinct
instant. No,
comment that Michael Jordan
it's
for
a bad
some
sign.
reason decided
you're like,
to make. And again, an entire set worth of people on this production crew. Did they even say anything to him about it?
Probably not. No.
Okay, well then this proves to you that for a little while, Michael Jordan was basically the most powerful person on earth. Like, I don't think anybody else could have gotten away with this. Anybody else in any pursuit. Look, Mel Gibson went on a huge rant against Jewish people and was one of the biggest stars in the movie stars in the world, and basically has never worked in a major movie ever again.
Yeah, never been the same.
All sorts of people with all sorts of hateful incidents. Never again. Michael Jordan grew grew out, groomed, and wore a Hitler mustache for a commercial that ran nationally,
That's
and nobody said a word about it.
Maybe they missed it in editing.
I think
Apparently they did. Yeah, because
Well, obviously,
it's a
this was
disgrace. Yeah, no doubt
before the
about
era of CGI, because I feel you would have CGI'd a full mustache on.
Yes.
I don't
Hey, Mike. And then you put like a whole beard.
like a Fu Manchu, like the Magic Johnson mustache. Again, was he trying to start a trend? Was he hoping it got everybody in the NBA would grow out to Hitler? I
Probably go over big with Adam Silver or
I don't-
David Stern. Yeah.
I don't really understand what Mike was going for. Did I maybe that's it? Maybe Mike was like, you know what? Let me just see how powerful I am.
Yeah.
Maybe see of like what can I bring back that nobody else on earth would bring back.
He
In
had
which
to have
case,
lost a bet. You're right.
This would
was a
be
bet,
Michael Jordan's only endorsement failure.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan has released. I mean, look, Space Jam was one of the most terrible movies ever made, and made $1 billion. And LeBron wanted to redo it. Like Michael Jordan, in some ways, is responsible for R. Kelly, because without R. Kelly's song in Space Jam, R. Kelly might have been done with 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But this was the one thing Michael could not successfully restore to good name, was the Hitler mustache.
Athletes, bad endorsement ideas. Another home run by the professor.
This is great.
Outstanding.
Again, we have not even scratched the surface on this topic.
I'm with you, man. No
There
mention
are-
of Phil. Yeah.
There are 1,000 more of these. Again, just Mike Ditka, just the San Antonio Spurs HEB commercials, which I think were intentionally weird. You should look those up on YouTube sometime if you've never seen them before. There are a million of these. But these were the 5 most questionable ones, just in terms of raw bad idea, in my personal opinion. By no means a comprehensive list.
Steve Garvey, I got a little jackpot for endorsing something that even I turned down, which was this shake that you drank before you went to bed. And no matter what you ate that day, you could have consumed a whole wild boar. It wouldn't have mattered. You could be eating like Mike Mayo, like he was going to the chair, and you would lose weight guaranteed if you drank this shake before you went to bed.
And the Pete Rose one and the bikini underwear, there are, again, this is an endless list.
Yeah. I like that because Pete has been disgraced and out of Major League Baseball forever, that he's always in a generic hat. Like he never does an ad where, It was kind of like when Fred McGriff was endorsing some bullshit that, and they had him in a generic hat because they didn't want to pay the
Oh, that is
Be to
the
Major League
Tom
Baseball,
Mansky
yeah.
T.
That was a
Curry
Mansky.
kids.
Yeah.
Oh, is that
Tom
the Umansky thing? Yeah, that was great, man.
There was one without McGriff, and then there was one that was like,
That ruined more baseball players, more little kids got out of baseball as a result of the Tom Umansky tape than I think.
Who doesn't want to
thing.
throw into a garbage can from
Yeah,
second
yeah.
base? Over
In
and over
3
again?
stages too? Like
The only one I remember was having the kids throw the ball into a garbage can from halfway across.
They
the
rolled it
infield.
into a drain, like. All right, Professor. Well, we love you, man, and thanks so much for being with us. Have a blast this weekend.
You have a great one, Dave.
All right, thanks a lot. Professor saying take the points, Chicago Bulls. All right, we'll get it more deeply into what's happening around town here. That was great. The professor, lame athlete endorsements. And we'll get into the whole spectrum of South Florida sports right now. The Marlins, I mean, should we write them off? Dave Hyde, before the season, said, it was all cosmetic what they did to this team. So is this 6-7 record? I mean, are we rejoicing over... the fact that we only got like 12 years in prison instead of 13.
exactly.
Yeah. It could have been worse, right? That should be the theme of a lot of South Florida teams, though. The Miami Dolphins. It could have been worse. That could be a new marketing slogan for them. That'd be great. I don't know how they're going to do either. I have no idea. It's amazing to me. Absolutely. I know we don't have any pick. And don't have a dog in the fight, so to speak, if you were talking to Michael Vick. But, I mean, zero steam about, anything concerning the draft here in town. Nothing about this Heat game tonight. And we'll get into that with Dave Hyde. And the Panthers drawing the Bruins. I mean, do you just throw in the towel right now or go out there? You're saying they're going to go out there and make it contentious.
I mean, it's hockey, and the Panthers have actually played the Bruins well. And even though Lyon fell totally apart yesterday, which I don't fucking understand. If you can put up 4 goals in the third period, you should win that game. Like, that's annoying. Still find a way to lose that game. And look, the scary thing is maybe the Lion thing is At some point, these runs do end. The random dude, the Jeremy Lins of the world that you've never heard of, and then they even in hockey, they stand on their head. At some point, it's going to come to an end. I was hoping it would do it in the middle of the playoffs. If last night is a sign that's not good, I wouldn't pick them to win. But they played really well down the stretch, and they have a tough team, and they have a lot of talent. And if you're the Bruins, you don't want to play them. Like, after the year you had to go out and face the former President Trophy winners, that's not great.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. 65 wins on the season for the Boston Bruins, 135 points. The Panthers had 42 wins, 23 less, and 92 points. Almost, what is it? That's like 43 points less on the season. All right, Dave Hyde coming up. Outstanding columnist. I mean, the man has been here for a long, long time, and really gets into great detail about all that's happening on the South Florida sports scene. And, of course, is well-versed in all aspects of the sporting life. Dave Hyde going to join us in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:36. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in Style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Hear me. I am your new president. From this day on, the official language of San Marcos will be Swedish. Silence. In addition to that, all citizens will be required to change their underwear every half hour. Underwear will be worn on the outside so we can check. Furthermore, all children under 16 years old are now 16 years old.
What's the Spanish word for straitjacket?
Power has driven him mad.
Welcome back to the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show, Degenerate Friday. And this man, I don't know if he would qualify as a member of the Degenerate Brethren. Might be inclined to make a wager here and there. But is the leading columnist in South Florida and has done a tremendous job, and always great to have him on the program. We welcome Dave Hyde to the show. David, how are you, my friend?
I'm dry, which is an achievement in South Florida over the last few days. So
isn't that something? Yeah. What would you make of this? Well, 1 in 1,000-year experience. And our good friend Mike Mayo, our mutual friend Mike Mayo, actually suffered some severe consequences from this with flooding in his house. And then he ended up sleeping on his ex-wife's couch at 4:30 in the morning. He goes in there. Very strange circumstances brought about by all of this rain. Airport's been closed for a couple of days now. It was really, really weird. What'd you make of all of this? Is it about time they invested in some drainage in these areas?
I was looking up architectural plans for arcs there for about 12
Who designed this area? The same guy that did the Golden Glades interchange? Where nobody could figure out which way they're going?
Oh, man. Yeah. So happy we're drying, and it's a big weekend in sports, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, you know what? I don't know if I'm just out of the loop, compared to, times where, you were taking a zillion calls on the radio, one way or the other about, the Heat season. But has some indifference set in with the Miami Heat I mean, it didn't seem like you were getting the same spirit here in South Florida. Maybe you never do, as you were in some of the other cities where I'm always amazed when I see like 15,000 people outside the arena jammed in there like they're in an ultra concert. And you don't see that level of enthusiasm for what's happening with the Miami Heat. And it seems like it's almost inconsequential that they're playing this game tonight. I don't know. Are you sensing that, or are you still getting hate mail every time you say something that might be slightly perceived as negative about the team?
Well, let's start here. The Heat haven't done much to inspire anybody this season, right? I mean,
yeah.
It'd be, you know, look at the Panthers are a 8th seed right now. The way things broke, they lost last night, but the way they played the last couple months, you say, oh, okay, well, they're not going to beat Boston. I mean, no one's predicting them to beat Boston because Boston's historically good. So they got the wrong draw there. But you could see why there was some excitement around the Panthers, whereas the Heat, every time they take one step forward, they take 1.25 steps back, and right to the play-in game against Atlanta, where I thought for sure that'd be the time. Okay, we're going to see the best of the Heat. We're going to see the real Heat after a regular season where the whole NBA is just like, oh, we don't care about the regular season, and you know what? If they don't care, I don't care either.
Yeah.
So, but I thought for sure against Atlanta we'd see, you know, a maximum effort. Instead, it was Atlanta that outplayed them, out-toughed them, out-thought them. I was shocked by that game.
That was a stunner. It really was. I mean, I was with you. I was predicting on the air and, you know, on the show here that I just figured the Heat would find themselves handling Atlanta with relative ease. We knew that Atlanta, we've been saying that they were a very dysfunctional team. Got their coach fired, Nate McMillan, who was respected around the league and had done a decent job with the Hawks prior to this. Late in the season, they bring in Quinn Snyder, who's obviously, you know, had his measure of respect, you know, being well-deserved for the job that he's done as a coach. But he goes 10-11, and they're talking about trading Trae Young before the game.
Yep.
And then saying, yeah, that was us. We were the ones that started that rumor.
Excited.
So you're thinking, wow, what chance do they have? And to see, I don't know that I've ever seen a Miami Heat team with this so-called Heat culture. I mean, it went south in a hurry. Louis Pasteur wouldn't have touched that because I mean, they were listless in that game.
Yeah, the odd part is it's pretty much the same cast that came within a shot of the finals last season and went to the finals. You know, again, a couple parts different, but nothing major. That went to the finals, you know, 3 years ago. So that was a shock, and we expect change on the Heat this offseason. Big change.
Will you be there tonight?
I'm planning on it. If
okay.
My car starts and the roads aren't flooded on the way. So,
all right. And you know, the last game, what was surprising also, I think the Heat fans showed up at like halftime.
Yes, like late second.
And by then they were already stunned, you know, to find themselves like 15 points down or whatever it was at the half. And, you know, and then, you know, even though they made a couple of runs, they never really threatened. Do you I saw the Chicago second half when they made the comeback against Toronto, and they played with a lot of life, you know, and they also beat the Heat 3 times this year. Do you attach any importance or significance to that in the game tonight?
Yeah, I think the Heat are, you know, it's a toss-up game, and let's be honest, whoever wins is going to get
whooped
quickly going to the offseason against Milwaukee in the first round, right?
Right.
I mean, so you're playing to. You know, we're into gradations of unsuccessful seasons right now. If you're the Heat, you know, either you get knocked out tonight and it's really just a bad season where you didn't even make the playoffs, or you make the playoffs and you probably go out. Hopefully you go out playing hard against Milwaukee, but you know, all scenarios look to it's going to be a quick off season.
All right, the Panthers, you know, as you mentioned, they're going against an historically good team. The Bruins win 65 games. They end up only with 12 regulation losses and 5 in OT, 135 points. 43 more than the Florida Panthers accumulated during the year as they were staggering around. The Bruins were great bell to bell also. I mean, obviously they had to be to win that many games, but they started the season on fire. They rarely had any lapses. And yet Lubie is inspired by the fact that he believes that the Panthers are a decent matchup for the Boston Bruins and have played them tough in the past. It seems like all hockey playoff games are contested, with a lot of grit and much more competitive even than regular season games. Is there a chance? I mean, do you foresee any possibility of the upset in this opening series? We have seen 8 seeds in the NHL win series against the number 1 seed. I have 3 occasions since 2000, I guess 2000, but I don't know. There probably are a few more examples of it.
Yeah, unlike the NBA where 8 seeds, I remember Denver beat Denver won it, in 1988, and they're still talking about it because
right.
seed 1. It happens in hockey. No one's going to predict it this series other than Lubie, I guess. But
he's not predicting a win. No, he's not bold enough to do that.
They won't go fall on their sword. I think they'll be tough. I think they'll win a game or 2.
All right, I wouldn't discount that. I mean, the Panthers have been playing tough, and last night was that was a disappointment. They could have got on a better playoff course if they win that game against Carolina. They avoid Boston. And now they have Boston, and this is a matchup nobody really wanted. Look, the Panthers have beat them twice in the regular season. The only other team to do that was Ottawa. So that's something to hold your hat on. But I mean, Boston's set up for the play. They're set up to be a great team, and so this is a matchup that the Panthers really didn't want. So. As well as they played, as good as they straightened out their season and got everything back on track over the last couple of months, it's hard to chart a course of them beating Boston.
Well, and overall, if you looked at it, you come in as the defending President's Cup champion. They did win a playoff series last year for the first time in what seems like forever. And what was that? I mean, did that go all the way back to like 97, their last playoff series win?
96, quarter century. Anytime you can throw out a century in any fractional.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah, you're operating under a curse in all likelihood. But I mean, to stagger into, and end up with the 8th seed, it came down to the next to last game to even get into a playoff spot. And then you blow the opportunity to maybe have a softer opponent in the first round. If they do go out in this series, say in 5 or 6 games, what would you have to say that it actually loomed as a big disappointment, especially in light of the fact they pulled off what we were talking about before with Tkachuk, that this was one of the big swindles of all time, this trade?
Well, this was sort of a transition year in a bizarre kind of way in that, they did win the President's Cup. They were a fun team last year, scoring a ton of goals. But you saw in the playoffs that they were fortunate to beat Washington, and they got run off the ice against Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I think Bill Zito decided, and rightfully so, if your goal is to win the Stanley Cup or challenge for that big change had to come. So they changed their whole system. They brought in Tkachuk as slam dunk, great move, as we've said. But it took 2 or 3 months for them to figure out how to play this way. And Paul Maurice, I talked to him the other day about this, and they went from a soft perimeter team to a team that, as he said, knows how to play hockey. So, and you could see the difference. So, the question about January was, would you rather have a really fun team that plays that has 82 fun games and then doesn't do anything in the playoffs, or a team that's more buttoned down and yet can go in the playoffs? And they changed that conversation over the last couple of months because they actually started winning and playing well, and it was fun. But this was sort of a transition year. The other thing is they had to set aside $8 million in cap money, which unlike the NFL, it's actual real money. So they'll have most of that. $6 million went to pay out Keith Yandel out of his contract, and there were other contract payouts and stuff. So they'll have that back next year to most of that to play with. It's a good year to make the playoffs. It would have been they'd advanced if they had got a different matchup. They'd have a much better chance to advance. It would have been obviously a better year.
Well, and also with that Huberdeau trade, you reset the age where now your center star is in his early 20s in Kachuk, and he seems very happy to be here, and he got paid right away, and it's a long-term contract, whereas Huberdeau was starting to get frustrated. He wanted more money for past performance. He was late 20s into his 30s. So you don't have to rush, like where the Heat are, they have to win now. Riley's old, Butler's old. The Panthers, they sort of reset the clock a little bit where they can, build around Kachuk. A team down here that we've watched reset the clock every 3 years, no matter what talent they had, the Miami Marlins seem to be a little better than we thought they'd be. The pitching is about what we thought it would be. The bullpen seems to be better. The offense seems to be waking up. Marlins sitting 6 and 7. Where are you with the Marlins as they seem to be waking up the last week or so?
I'm with them about July. Their lack of depth and money will catch up to them. Look, Arias has had an incredible start. Was he batting 500? He had a cycle the other day. Looks like a great pickup. But we're like barely a step out of the blocks of the baseball season. Yeah. They had a nice series. At New York, at Philadelphia, they come out 500. That's the formula for them to have a good year. You play 500 on the road and do better than that at home, and that's how you win in baseball. So they come home for a series. I went Minnesota tonight. That's they're coming off a really good road trip for them. But I think over time, as they also over 162 games, everything comes into play. And I just don't think they have enough hitting still. I don't think they have enough depth which gets into money and a long conversation on that. So I think nice start for them, but let's check back and before we say, boy, they really saw some things in the middle of the summer.
Dave Hyde guesting with us. Lubie says they play the Diamondbacks tonight.
Arizona, okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And and it's interesting. When you do the book on Kim Ng's career, what do you think the narrative will be? I mean, can we write that book yet? Is there anything decisive that we can see, from what she's doing in the front office? Or is it unfair to judge her because she's in a situation where she's badly compromised by the lack of wherewithal of the organization?
Well, I mean, she's historic. I mean, she's a historical figure as the first woman GM. But I haven't seen anything or much of anything that says, "Wow, they're innovative thinking. They're up against it because of money, and so they got to do things differently or smarter." And it's not just her. I mean, the whole Derek Jeter regime was a disaster. I mean, there's nobody on the roster that was drafted under Derek Jeter whose whole premise was to draft his way back to a contending team. So, I mean, those 5 years, when Derek Jeter left saying, "Oh, this isn't what I signed up for," you know what? It's what nobody signed up for with him. He was awful.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Brutal. He might have been the worst GM. If you look at it, he made Jeffrey Loria's reign look pretty good.
Honestly.
That's how bad Jeter was.
Could you have ever thought that? I mean, look, it wasn't like he had qualifications as a front office guy, but I really thought it was going to be good. I have to admit, I was fooled.
No experience.
Well, baseball has just crapped on this market down here. They gave Loria in a trade of ownership, and then they picked Derek Jeter over Jorge Mas, a local businessman who knows this market and would have done things smart instead of it's like I've compared it. If Dan Marino took the GM's job and the ownership led the ownership group in Kansas City. Everybody look at it and say, wow, Dan Marino is a great player. What does that have to do with anything of his current job? And that was with Jeter. You know, he thought he came in here and he's Derek Jeter, and that's all he had to be. But I was like, well, he doesn't market himself. He doesn't market the team. He doesn't make good moves. That was a disaster.
Yeah, he wasn't exactly, very outgoing
and friendly
in that position, which you would have thought he would have been a good ambassador. I mean, if he had been a different type of, or had taken a different approach, he could have brought interest to the team in spite of the fact that they sucked, and maybe, covered that up. It would have been maybe putting lipstick on a pig, but, you probably would have stuck with it for a few years before you started to say, hey, wait a minute, Derek, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. It's amazing. But
yeah, you know what? Think about it. In New York, all he had to do to keep his narrative, to make his statements, every day he'd go out and play shortstop.
Yeah.
That's what he did. As an owner, as a GM, that's not how you have to control the narrative. You have to sell the team. Now, in markets like this, there's a lot more than just going out and playing 9 innings, which he did for 20 years or whatever, and very well. But that was a disaster that Rob Manfred's just foisted on South Florida.
Yeah, and Jorge eventually became Jorge Nomas, as he kept getting different sets of conditions, and I guess the money got out of control there also. And I don't know, is that a brick of a franchise? Did they pay like $1.4 billion or something for that? Was it 1.2?
1.1. Yeah. Who knows what but there were all these loan contingencies and all this stuff. So who knows what the private business can do with papers.
You think the ballpark was a good idea for the city? I mean, they're going to be swimming in red ink forever, right? Little old lady's going to be denied Social Security. Yeah, down there in South Beach.
Let's look at this in context here of other. When the tennis tournament was at Key Biscayne, and it moved to the stadium, Hard Rock Stadium, I was like, that's ridiculous. That's awful. There's beautiful arrangement at Key Biscayne, and I get it. They had to save it. It was the one thing they had to do to save it.
Sure.
They wanted.
I'm glad they did too. I like that event very much.
It tripled in attendance its first year at Hard Rock Stadium.
Is that right?
That's
tripled, and so
it was more central.
And so when you say is the baseball stadium, the first thing is location. It cuts itself off from so many people.
Yep.
That again, look at the tennis. They opened themselves up to, Broward and Palm Beach in a way that wasn't before. So,
sure.
I mean, look, when the stadium, when the top's off, and it's a good day, it's a great stadium. But when the top's down and you're with 4,000 people, it's not a great stadium.
Well, Dave, it's always a pleasure. And have fun at that Heat game tonight. I'm kind of thinking like you are that they find a way, managed, to play more of their game than they did against the Hawks and come out with a win. Lubie, I think, is inclined to subscribe to a very lame sports talk theory that you're better off losing this thing and having a lottery draft pick than you would be to go in and get slaughtered, sacrificial lambs for the Milwaukee Bucks. But regardless of how that ends up, we'll see what happens. And as you said, tough draw based on that game last night against Carolina with the Panthers. Wouldn't have minded seeing them get a softer spot in the first round and maybe gather some momentum in the postseason. Then go immediately in there against the Boston Bruins. But we'll see how that works out as well. Thanks so much. Always exciting stuff on the scene here, and thanks so much for joining us, Dave.
All right, Defo. Good talking to you.
Always a pleasure. Dave Hyde, ladies and gentlemen. He tells it like it is there, Lubie. That's one thing I like about Dave Hyde. That is interesting that Jeter might have been the worst of all of the different factions that were involved in running the one-time and now Miami Marlins, one-time Florida Marlins. That Jeter might have been the most catastrophic of all of them.
They sucked. I mean, Beinfest ended up sucking, but there was a time we thought Beinfest was good. Dombrowski, as we all know, was great.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who was I don't know who was between Beinfest. Oh, Mike Hill.
Yes.
Whatever you want to say about Michael Hill, he left with 4 All-Stars. Like there was 4.
Yeah, no, they had some good players. Yeah.
Bruno, Yelich, All-Star. Stanton, All-Star. Ramuto, All-Star. So you can say whatever you want about their pitching. They had 4 All-Stars, and if you found a way to get any pitching, they were going to compete.
Right.
Jeter got rid of all of them to draft, and every draft pick has been a fucking failure. And when he left, this is what he's left with. Nothing. Like, I mean, Arise finally is decent, but again, he's like Cal Ripken Jr. in 2023. Like, he's a contact hitter in an era that doesn't give a shit about contact hitters. Like,
well, I think, there's nothing wrong with having this guy in your lineup. I mean, a consistent, high batting average guy, that's a useful component. You should be able to make something happen with that. That isn't all you need, though, obviously.
It's not your main guy. Like, your center of a lineup needs to be a guy that can get you.
I mean, would you rather have a Schwarber than an Arise? If, a guy that's going to strike out 200 times would hit you 40 homers? That works if you have, the rest of the talent that Philadelphia has. I don't know. They had to try and do something. I don't mind the Arise move at all. Now, so far, it looks like a thing of beauty with the guy hitting 500. To sustain that, obviously not happen. But I would expect this guy to be, somewhere above 300 this year. And he seems to have that kind of swing. Plus, I mean, think about this. He's hitting 500. And he's seen his share of National League pitching while playing with the Twins. But, not as frequently. I mean, in the abundance that he did to start the year. And he went against, Mets? Supposedly with this big pitching staff and the Phillies, who had Aaron Nola who's getting touched up. So we'll see what happens. You know what? I want to believe that this recent wave of momentum where they moved from 4-7 to 6-7 might be something that they can sustain. We shall see. Meanwhile, if you guys get a chance, check out this Monte Carlo tennis tournament. To gas, you have Medvedev and Holger Rune about to take the court, and this is the third of what would have been 3 really, really high level matchups that they've had on the court so far, and they still have one to go after this. So good stuff. Men's quarterfinals from Monte Carlo. All right, we'll see you out at Gulfstream Park. That's on for today, right? Do we know that?
Text at all, huh? Yes, Mayo said they're off the turf, I think, still. But
I would imagine, yes.
Well, they are open for simulcasting, which is your favorite thing anyway, one of your favorite things anyways. So they may
and they'll run on their all-weather track for sure, I would think.
I don't know if they're having live racing. I think
you don't know?
Live racing, but they're open and simulcasting will abound. So we will be there live.
Yeah, you got a lot of good stuff today. Keeneland going.
Yes.
I guess Oaklawn Park is going. Let's hope for some live racing at Gulfstream, too. That'll be nice. All right, we'll see you out there at 12 o'clock. Mike Mayo's lunchbox. Mike had to scratch due to the issues of, the flooding in the area there in Dania, and it impacted his house. So, he had to deal with a few things regarding that, as in, getting his mother a raft, basically, so she could go to the kitchen and have breakfast. That is not a fun thing to contend with. So we'll see. Hopefully he'll be in a good mood. Get him a Bloody Mary before we start the show.
I literally am. I already planned that.
In fact, get him an IV drip of Bloody Marys right from the bar there. We'll see if Joe Bega can set that up for us. But we'll see you at Gulfstream Park later on at South Florida Live. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, to a Degenerate Friday. Thanks to Dave Hyde for guesting with us. The Greek and the Professor, always dynamite. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest, and we'll see you at 12 o'clock as we leave. You know that.
The time.
It's 9:03.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my show.